Hello, everybody, and welcome to another segment of Video Guys Live, where we talk for about 15 to 20 minutes on Tuesdays to talk about live streaming, equipment, tips and tricks, and all kinds of stuff. So today we want to say thank you to our viewers for watching us last week as we did Sports Stream, which was our quarterly event where we talk all about live streaming equipment in sports productions. And we did this 3-day long event. And so we wanted to talk about some of the tips and tricks and techniques that helped ensure that we had a successful event. One thing that I want to talk about a lot today is troubleshooting and ways to ensure that your stream goes out. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I came across an interesting article on IBM's website where they did a study and they found that buffering issues can cause 63% of viewers to leave the live stream immediately, and it will reduce engagement from your viewers by up to 20%. So we want to talk about things that you can do to help prevent that from happening when you have a live streaming event. The more consistent that you can be with your streams, the more trust and credibility that you can have with your audience, and the more trust and credibility that you have with your audience can boost viewer engagement, which is the whole point of live streaming. Whether you're for a house of worship or for a marketing department, it doesn't matter. You want to get people to watch your stuff and you want to get people to be engaged and ask questions. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just the tips that we're going to talk about today. Number one, being pre-building your content, whether it's pre-recorded content or just making sure that your graphics are all set up well in advance. Video backups, in case one of your transmission protocols goes out, you have backups. Making sure that you're streaming to multiple streaming destinations at the same time. Isolating your NDI network from your house network, having extra cables in a pinch, and then of course making sure that you have checklists in place to ensure that everything is ready to go before you do your live stream. So the first thing that I want to talk about is pre-building content. This includes both pre-recording entire segments of your live stream, but also making sure that all of your graphics are ready well in advance. We are big fans of Flowix, and Flowix does give you the ability to, change your graphics on the fly. But if you know that you're going to be talking about certain topics and you know that your guests are going to be X, Y, and Z, might as well make those graphics in advance, long before your guest even joins you to pre-record. Make sure that you have your PowerPoints and presentations built in advance and scheduling and all done in advance. Now, some recommendations that we have when it comes to this kind of stuff, like I said, preloading all of your graphics and your B-rolls, your overlays, everything like that. Make sure that those are all on your system at least 48 hours before you plan on doing your recording. And then also make sure once you do your recording that whatever system you're going to be doing that playback on, make sure that it plays back smoothly. Make sure that your audio is balanced in that. Some systems require you to do some transcoding, and that can take time too. So make sure you upload that video to your production system long in advance. One of the advantages of being able to pre-record segments, especially with guests, is that it can help with scheduling. IBC was happening last week. Which meant that a lot of our manufacturers and our contacts with these manufacturers were overseas while we were actually doing our event. So for us to be able to offer to them weeks in advance for some people to say, hey, we know that you're going to be at IBC. That's the same time as our event. Can you join us, the week prior or 2 weeks prior and record your segment? That way you get the best of both worlds. They can still go to their event and they can still be a part of your event. The other thing is sometimes when things are live, things happen. Someone says the wrong thing or you pull up the wrong graphic. If you do a pre-record, then you have the ability to throw your content into a nonlinear editor and either fix those mistakes or cover up those mistakes. But also, if you're already in a nonlinear editor and you know that you're going to have multiple segments going on, maybe you have a sponsor or something that you need to put at the end of a segment. Well, if you're already in the nonlinear editor, editing out some of the content with your guest, might as well put that commercial at the end of it as well. And then you are getting a 2-for-1, and you know that your commercial is going to play. You're not going to forget to hit that sponsor. Perfect example of that is we did a pre-record with Netgear. And as you can see, we went straight from their live demo or their pre-recorded demo right into a commercial talking about the M4250. So without having to hit 2 buttons on our TriCaster, I was able to just go right into that commercial because I edited it together in our nonlinear editor. The next tip that I have for everyone is to back up your video feeds. Whether you're using HDMI, SDI, or NDI, make sure no matter what, you have another solution available. If you are utilizing NDI in your workflow, a lot of production systems will still have HDMI or SDI inputs on them, and a lot of the PTZs that we carry that are NDI also have either an HDMI or SDI output. And what's becoming more and more popular is even just a simple USB output, and that camera will show up on your switcher as a webcam, and that is great. Make sure though that not only you are testing to make sure that your primary video transmission method is working, but make sure your backups are working as well. Some manufacturers, PTZ cameras, can do NDI and SDI at the same time, or NDI and HDMI at the same time, but not necessarily NDI, HDMI, and SDI all at the same time. So make sure whatever you plan on using for your backup is working long before your stream goes out. Now, if you are using a PTZ camera and for whatever reason your network does go down, you can take, like I said, the HDMI and the SDI and even USB out for video, but how do you control that? And fear not, almost every single one of the PTZ cameras that we carry also comes with an IR remote. Regardless of if the network goes down, you can use that IR remote to do simple pan and tilt movements as well as control your presets. So a lot of your presets will be saved on the camera, and even if you can't access your controller or your web GUI, you can still access those presets directly with the IR remote. Now, if your NDI network goes down, but your camera is still connected to, let's say, Wi-Fi, you can still be able to use a lot of the phone apps that offer over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection to your camera to be able to control them. And then also, again, if your switcher goes out for whatever reason, a lot of the times your cameras will. And again, if NDI goes out, you can also look at using other AV over IP protocols in order to get those cameras to be functional with your controller. Something like Canon actually uses their own proprietary control protocol, the XC protocol. So even if something happens to NDI, there's a very good chance that that XC protocol will still work. Or you can use Sony Visca or Pelco P or Pelco D, or even straight to the camera from the controller with RS-232 or RS-422. So there are plenty of options that you can utilize if your NDI network, for whatever reason, goes down. The next thing that I want to suggest is stream to multiple platforms. We like to be very transparent when we're talking about some of these things, and on our second day, we were having a little bit of sync issue on one of the platforms that we were sending to, but because we were able to multicast to 3 destinations, Facebook, YouTube, and Crowdcast, we were able to say, hey, we understand that Crowdcast is having a little bit of issue, but Facebook and YouTube are up and running with no issues at all, and we were able to tell our audience to go to one of those platforms to still watch the content and be engaged. Now, that's great in case one of the platforms is having an issue, but also that is a great offer to your audience to watch wherever they want to watch. If they are more comfortable watching on Facebook, there is no harm in streaming to multiple destinations at once. Most of the switchers on the market allow you to send to multiple streaming destinations or RTMP destinations directly from the switcher. And if you're not able to do that with the switcher that you're using, you could also look at something like Restream.io. Restream.io is a multi-destination platform. It's a redistributor, and it's relatively inexpensive to have something like that, but it is extremely beneficial to reach your audience wherever they want to watch. The next tip is to isolate your NDI network. When we're looking at something like a TriCaster, a lot of the TriCasters will have two NIC ports on the back of them, and that is so you can be connected to two networks simultaneously. In our studio, we're using a TriCaster TC1 Pro, which has two NIC ports on the back of it, and we are utilizing a Netgear M4250 switch in our studio. So all three of our NDI cameras are connected to that Netgear M4250 switch, which is separate from our building's house network, which is connected to the internet. And because we are able to isolate our networks, we do not have to worry about anybody else on the house network somehow getting in and controlling or changing one of the settings on our PTZ cameras, because they are on completely separated networks. Now, a lot of the times with an M4250 switch, you can have virtual local area networks too, so you can have multiple networks on a single switch. In our studio, we just actually have two separate physical switches. Netgear is a great resource when it comes to AV over IP with their VLANs and having specific protocols for NDI. So absolutely, we're always going to recommend the Netgear M4250 switches. The next thing is to make sure that you have extra cables available. One of our tips already was make sure that you have different ways to get your video and audio to your switcher, but straight up making sure that you have extra HDMI cables, SDI cables, XLR cables, RJ45 cables, and even power cables is crucial. If for whatever reason one of your cables goes bad, the first thing that you're going to want to do, if your video feed drops out and you're using NDI, the first thing you're going to want to do is just swap out that Ethernet cable and make sure it's not the cable. We had one of our cameras not go into our system last week, and simply changing the cable had us up and running in just 30 seconds. When it comes to power, again, being able to just quickly swap out a power cable is night and day. A lot of higher end network switches and production systems, and even some of the other production gear on our line card, will actually have two power supplies built into them, just in case something happens to your primary source. It will automatically go to that backup and ensure that your stream is going on. The next tip is to make sure that you are doing a full run through of your entire production in the actual environment. We hear a lot of people will do testing in their home office or their home studio, and then they go to the event space and something's not working. Maybe there's not enough strong enough Wi-Fi, or your cable's not the right length, whatever it may be. Make sure that you are actually doing your tests in the actual environment, because you never know what that environment is going to be like until you get there and start doing the full run through. And going with that, if you're doing a full run through, make sure that you have checklists in place. Make sure you have all of your cameras, your switchers, your mics, your cables, and then make sure all of those are able to communicate to each other. Document step by step the entire process, so when you do come back for your actual event, you're making sure that you have everything all lined up, and then you can actually set it up even faster because you have that checklist in place. And then, that's just the best way to make sure that you don't have any technical issues. I wanted to talk about some common pitfalls and just, again, troubleshooting that we talk about all the time. The first thing is going to be, if you are a traveling production, Do not always rely on the venue offering a stable internet connection. We here are big fans of utilizing cellular bonding, whether it's LiveView or KiloView with their cellular bonded encoders. It cannot hurt to have one of those in your fly pack and bring it with you everywhere you go. Now, one thing I thought about too is, making sure that you have the right cable lengths. And this goes back to making sure that you're doing your run through in your actual location. It's one thing to say, okay, my switcher and my camera are going to be 35 feet apart from each other, but okay, does that mean that you get a 35-foot long cable? No, you probably want to get a little bit longer of a cable so you can have that cable run down to the ground, then run all the way back, and then run up to your table to plug into your switcher. And you might not realize that you need that extra distance. So, in actuality, it's 35 feet away, but you probably want a 40 or 45-foot long cable. Definitely make sure that you are, testing that and thinking about that well in advance. Again, make sure that there is not only just outlets available, but the proper amount of power to power your entire production. This used to be a much bigger issue before LED lights came out. But when we were using lights that would take thousands of watts of power, that was something that we really needed to take into consideration. I think the bigger thing that you want to take into consideration right now is if you have a switch that has enough power to power your PoE devices, make sure that you have enough outlets available, things like that. And then, of course, you want to fix all of these during that real world run through, not during your live stream. You want to be testing all of this in advance. Find the little gremlins that are in your system well in advance, and then you have a seamless stream when you actually want to be live. Okay, so we're going to run through down real quick those 5 tips again. Pre-record and pre-build as much of your content as you can in advance. Make sure that you have video transmission protocol backups, whether it's HDMI, SDI, USB, NDI, wireless point-to-point transmitters, whatever it may be. Make sure that you have a backup setup in place. We're always going to recommend streaming to multiple platforms all at the same time simultaneously. If Facebook goes down or YouTube goes down, you can always point to the other one and say, hey, audience, we know that we're having issues on Facebook. Head on over to YouTube. Isolate your NDI network when applicable. Completely isolate your NDI devices from the rest of the items that are on your network, whether it's a house of worship, whether it's an office, whether it is a school. Isolate your NDI network so you don't get any gremlins in that thing. And then just make sure that you have the proper cable lengths and do full-on run-throughs in the exact location that your event is going to be happening. We did our event sports stream, and we are super grateful for everybody that has joined in, and we hope that you learned a lot of information. We wanted to kind of peel back the corner a little bit and say, hey, these are some things that we did all leading up to the event to ensure that you guys had a flawless viewing experience, and we hope that you did. And so again, we wanted to say thank you. And that's all our tips and tricks for ensuring your live stream event succeeds. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about, feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325 or send us an email at sales@videoguys.com. We will see you next Tuesday at about 3 o'clock Eastern. Until then, thanks.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.